Harlem, 1935. A bustling neighborhood filled with jazz, nightlife, speakeasies, and underground power. Among the glittering clubs, the Cotton Club stood out, not only for its music and glamour, but also for its racial exclusivity. Wealthy white patrons mingled with celebrities, politicians, and gangsters, while black operators and performers navigated a delicate hierarchy in their own community. At the heart of this world was Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, a rising figure whose intelligence, reputation, and loyalty to Harlem made him a respected and feared operator. On the night of September 16, 1935, a single confrontation would change the balance of power. A racist doorman, acting with arrogance and authority in a whites-only club, publicly insulted Johnson, assuming that his race and status gave him unquestioned power. What Johnson did next would shock New York, demonstrating that intelligence, strategy, and calm resolve could outweigh bluster and privilege. This was not just a conflict about territory or money. It was a test of respect, pride, and influence. The events that unfolded would leave a lasting mark on Harlem and its criminal landscape. Inside the Cotton Club, the tension was palpable. Music played, glasses clinked, and patrons laughed, oblivious to the storm about to erupt. The doorman, fueled by a sense of superiority and perhaps alcohol, confronted Bumpy Johnson, shouting insults and using racial slurs in front of a crowded room. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Patrons froze, the band faltered, and even seasoned gangsters turned to watch. Johnson, however, did not react aggressively. He remained calm, seated, and composed, letting the insults land without showing anger or fear. His quiet demeanor created a stark contrast to the doorman's loud aggression, drawing attention to the audacity of the insult. When Johnson finally spoke, it was calm, controlled, and chilling. He gave a 7-day ultimatum for the disrespect to end, or face consequences. To the doorman and many in the audience, the words seemed impossible. They underestimated the man in front of them. Johnson walked out, leaving the crowd and the doorman with a silent tension that foreshadowed events that would unfold over the next week. The stage was set for a calculated and shocking response. The doorman and those aligned with him believed the confrontation was a victory. Laughing at the notion of an ultimatum, he assumed that wealth, race, and authority insulated him from consequences. His arrogance blinded him to the reality of Harlem's power structures and Bumpy Johnson's influence. Unlike ordinary neighborhoods, Harlem's criminal ecosystem depended on community relationships, loyalty, and trust. Disrespecting local operators publicly risked alienating the very people who controlled the streets. The doorman failed to recognize that his insult had transformed a routine power struggle into a personal challenge. Johnson's calm and measured response was not weakness, it was strategy. Each action that night had been carefully observed by witnesses, creating a ripple effect that would work in Johnson's favor. Overconfidence is a fatal flaw in any power game, and here it would cost dearly. The doorman continued his evening, recounting the incident to anyone who would listen, convinced he had won, unaware that his arrogance had ignited a meticulously planned retaliation. The stage was no longer a club, it had become the spark for a chain of events that would shock New York.
After leaving the Cotton Club, Johnson went straight to work. He understood that confronting the doorman or his associates directly would invite overwhelming retaliation. Instead, Johnson devised a strategy designed to neutralize the threat with precision and psychological impact. His plan had 3 parts. First, disappear from public view, creating the illusion of fear and protecting himself from immediate attack. Second, target key operators who managed the doorman's influence in Harlem, collectors, enforcers, and managers, removing the foundation of his power without direct confrontation. Third, send a lasting message to Harlem and beyond. Disrespect and racial humiliation carried consequences. Johnson assembled his most trusted men, assigning each target, mapping vulnerabilities, and preparing notes to accompany each death, counting down from 8 to 1. The message was clear, deliberate, and designed to terrify anyone who dared underestimate Harlem's authority. Johnson became invisible, yet omnipresent, orchestrating a calculated retaliation that would leave a mark not just on individuals, but on the system of respect, race, and power in New York. Every action from this point forward was part of a controlled, methodical plan. Beginning the very next day, Johnson's plan unfolded. One key operator was eliminated per day, each with precision and accompanied by a note counting down the victims. Harlem's streets became a silent witness, and the community, aware of the insult at the Cotton Club, refused to cooperate with outsiders seeking information. The psychological impact was immediate. Panic spread among the doorman's associates, who realized they were vulnerable. Each death reinforced the message. This was not random, and it would continue until the disrespect ended. By the third day, fear replaced arrogance, and attempts to track Johnson proved futile. Every envelope, every public discovery amplified the tension, demonstrating the power of careful planning over brute force. The audience understood that Johnson was not acting impulsively. He was orchestrating a week-long demonstration of strategy, control, and consequence. As the countdown progressed, the doorman's confidence crumbled, and Harlem's balance of power began to shift, showing that respect and intelligence could triumph over privilege and bluster. By the seventh day, Johnson's methodical plan was complete. Key operators had been eliminated, the doorman's influence in Harlem collapsed, and fear had paralyzed any remaining resistance. Unable to locate Johnson and facing continued losses, the doorman ordered a retreat, abandoning weeks of work and investments. Harlem's streets returned to the control of local operators, but the lesson was etched into memory. Public disrespect, arrogance, and racial superiority could provoke decisive consequences. Johnson emerged unchallenged, maintaining authority without direct confrontation. His strategy relied on intelligence, community support, and precise action rather than reckless violence, demonstrating a new standard for navigating power dynamics. The public humiliation that had once seemed an advantage for the aggressor now marked his defeat. Harlem had spoken, and the message was clear: respect is mandatory, and violation carries consequences. This week-long sequence of events reshaped how both black and white operators approached power in the city. With the doorman's retreat complete, Bumpy Johnson re-established his authority. Harlem remembered the lesson. One insult, carefully handled, could provoke a response that was methodical, precise, and unforgettable. The events of that week reverberated across New York, influencing interactions between black and white operators for decades. Arrogance, racial prejudice, and public humiliation could no longer be used casually against Harlem's trusted figures. Johnson's actions demonstrated the importance of strategic thinking, patience, and leveraging community loyalty. Though violent, his plan avoided direct confrontation with the main aggressor, emphasizing intelligence over impulsive action. The story spread throughout the criminal underworld, becoming a cautionary tale about respect, strategy, and consequence. Johnson emerged not only victorious, but legendary, showing that even in a hostile environment, the right combination of calm, planning, and decisiveness could reshape power structures. Harlem had protected its own, and the events of 1935 continued to influence New York streets long after the week ended, leaving an indelible mark on the city's history and criminal landscape.